So let me answer the question that the title of this video asks to make the direction of this video more clear. No, the Mavic Mini can't replace my Mavic Air, but it comes very close, which is important, so let me explain. So just like we started the comparison video between the DJI Spark and the Mavic Mini, I want to touch on the price. The Mavic Mini being priced at $400 is really competitive as it comes with a remote controller, it's small, which is pretty much a given, and it also has some great specs packed inside of that tiny package. The Mavic Air, on the other hand, costs $919, so more than twice the amount of the Mavic Mini. This drone was originally released at a price of $800, but after the recent price increase due to tariffs here in the United States, it comes just shy of $1,000, which is a big ask for this drone. Now, once we bring the Fly More combo into consideration, you're looking at spending $500 for the Mavic Mini and a lot of other accessories like batteries, which effectively increases your flight time, and you also get a lot of little extra pieces, making ownership of this drone just easier. The Mavic Air, on the other hand, bumps up to $1,150 for the equivalent Fly More combo, again proving to be more than double the cost of the Mavic Mini. So for that extra cost, what does the now 2-year-old Mavic Air offer over the Mavic Mini to justify spending the extra money? In order to make things easier, I've broke this video down into 6 major categories here: the build, the camera, the flight time, the performance, the features, and the remote controller. You'll see that the Mavic Air predominantly reigns superior over the Mavic Mini, but it is to be expected. You see, the Mavic Mini was never built to compete with a drone of the Mavic Air's caliber, but like I said in the beginning of this video, it is right on its heels, which is important because even though the Mavic Air is fundamentally better than the Mavic Mini in almost every single category, this comes right behind it with some really promising specs, and you guys will see what I mean as I break down each of these different categories. So, I marked the build as a tie, and that's because each of these drones truly have their own strengths. The Mavic Air is built like a tank with strong plastic and high quality components, but the Mavic Mini, on the other hand, is much smaller than the already small Mavic Air. The plastic feels cheaper and, as I've shown in previous videos, can result in more give, specifically in those arms. And the reason why this isn't such a bad thing is because DJI made these cuts for a reason. The Mavic Mini, weighing only 249 grams, as it says right here on the front right side of the drone, is important because if this is your first drone and if it's the only drone that you fly, then you won't have to register with the FAA. Now, to somebody like me who flies the Mavic Air and other drones that are over 250 grams, it's really a non-factor. Like, that's not the reason I'd go out and buy this drone, but I could see how it would be a determining factor if somebody was just beginning to get into flying drones. Moving into the camera here, the Mavic Mini does a good job at holding its own, but the Mavic Air proves to be slightly better in a few very important ways. I'll include a side-by-side comparison of the specs here, which show us our first indication of just how close these drones really are. The sensor size is the same, the megapixels are the same, and the resolution of the photos are too close to call any different, but where the Air really starts to gain some separation is in the video department, as it can shoot 4K video at 30 frames per second and doubles the maximum frame rate available to shoot at in 2.7K and 1080p over the Mavic Mini. Along with these better specs, the Mavic Air's camera gives its user so much more control with the ability to shoot raw photos in the DNG file format, manual control of the white balance, manual control of the exposure settings when shooting video, and a lot more shooting modes like HDR, exposure bracketing, burst, and pano. Here's the thing that makes me really upset about the separation between the cameras on both of these drones. It's the fact that DJI purposely limited the functionality of the Mavic Mini's camera, because why would the Mavic Mini, which is smaller and less expensive, have a better camera than a drone on the Mavic Air, which is bigger and more expensive? We see this across DJI's entire lineup. They never want to offer a better experience on a smaller drone because then it's going to cut into sales of their higher end drones. It's a pretty common business tactic. We see it with like smartphones and also with computers and even traditional mirrorless cameras like the one I'm shooting on right now. But as it pertains to these two drones right here, why should the Mavic Mini not be able to have manual control over the white balance, or why should I not be able to manually control the exposure settings when I'm shooting video? It's because the software doesn't let me. And also, from a totally different angle, why can't I shoot HDR photos? Why can't I shoot bracketed photos? Why can't I shoot pano photos with the Mavic Mini? It's because the software doesn't let me. Now, I think as far as the photos are concerned, they look really similar right out of the camera, but remember that you can shoot raw DNG photos with the Mavic Air, so the possibilities when it comes to editing are much greater than if we were dealing with the JPEG images over on the Mini. And if you know what you're doing when editing photos, then the Mavic Air is going to be a much more powerful tool. Now, I know that these photos have been whipping through here pretty fast, but if you want to see the raw or the unedited files, go ahead and check the link in the description to download these sample files. Now, as we get into video here, the comparison again might not seem huge when you watch it here through YouTube, but I'm shooting all of the Mavic Mini footage in 2.7K, while the Mavic Air footage is shot in 4K, which means we get a much more higher resolution image when we're shooting with the Mavic Air. And that's important when you're shooting with a drone because you're usually further away from your subject at an elevated angle, so you want to make sure that your image is as detailed as possible. What I said, though, just a few seconds ago really does hold a lot of value because shooting at 2.7K is still more than enough if you're shooting videos for social media to be consumed on smaller devices. But don't forget that the Mavic Air still offers higher frame rates like 60 frames per second in 2.7K and 120 frames per second in 1080p. To me, 4K is a must on a drone, and it's a real shame the Mavic Mini doesn't offer that. Now, just like those photos, I've also included some sample videos in the download link in the description if you want to go ahead and check them out in their full resolution on whatever device you're watching this video on. Something that I should have mentioned is that the faster top speed makes shooting video on the Mavic Air a lot more fun, and we'll get into the top speed and the performance of these two drones here in just a couple of minutes, but I do want to mention that as it pertains to shooting video, you can do a lot more with the Mavic Air. You can change the pacing of the video that you're shooting. You can also chase after fast-moving subjects or fast-moving objects, say a train or a boat or maybe even a car, whereas the Mavic Mini is fairly slow. Now, getting into our next category here, flight time, there really isn't all that much to say other than the Mavic Mini crushes the Mavic Air. With the Mavic Mini, we get an advertised 30 minutes of flight time, whereas with the Mavic Air, we get an advertised 20 minutes of flight time. Now, I find that it's usually 10 minutes less than the advertised flight time for both of these drones, so we're looking at more like maybe 22 minutes and maybe more like 12 minutes. And that's still really great. You can get 10 more minutes of flight time out of the Mavic Mini, and as you're burning through batteries, that really can add up. Now, why is that? Why does the Mavic Mini burn less battery, or why can it, I guess, stay in the air longer than the Mavic Air? It's probably because of the small motors, it's probably because this drone is lighter, and it's also probably because this drone in general is just drawing more power, but it really is great that the Mavic Mini has better flight time than the Mavic Air, and I hope that that's something we see going forward, is that DJI is really conscious about the flight time of their drones, because of the last two, we got the Mavic Mini and the Mavic 2 Pro and Mavic 2 Zoom, so I guess a total of 3 drones. They've all had 30+ minute flight time, at least advertised flight time, so I hope moving forward, that is a key point DJI makes with their drones, is that they've got a long flight time. Now, the performance category, on the other hand, is given to the Mavic Air, as it has a faster top speed of 42.5 miles per hour opposed to 30 miles per hour on the Mavic Mini, and I'm not just saying that this drone performs better because it can fly faster. There's a lot of other factors that go into it. A big thing here in Pennsylvania, especially around this time of year, is wind. We have very high wind gusts, and sometimes when I'm flying the Mavic Mini, full throttle in sport mode, it is standing still. Sometimes the wind even pushes it backwards, whereas when I'm flying the Mavic Air, there's almost no issue whatsoever. This drone is almost like a little sports car. It cuts through the wind. There's no issue flying through the gusts of wind. It's just rock solid when you fly it. Also, speaking of like the top speed, this drone with a top speed of 30 miles per hour, the Mavic Mini, I haven't found myself hitting that top speed of 30 miles per hour with no wind. Even when I have a tailwind helping me out, I find it hard to get to 30 miles per hour. So it makes me wonder how DJI came up with that number, because I find myself maxing out at like 26 or 27 miles per hour. But regardless, the Mavic Air is just so much more fun to fly because the performance is so much better. Now, I really didn't know where to fit in the talk about range here, so I figured I'd place it right here in between the performance category and the miscellaneous features category. Now, both of these drones operate over DJI's enhanced Wi-Fi transmission system, and both of them can give you 2.5 miles of advertised range. But as I found in my range comparison test, the Mini smokes the Air, as the Air couldn't even fly 3,000 feet without experiencing some heavy interference. I think that the reason behind this is because the Air was locked in at 2.4 gigahertz, while the Mini was locked in at 5.8 gigahertz. But within my Mavic Air's transmission settings, there's no option to change out of 2.4 gigahertz, which I find pretty odd, despite this drone being able to operate over the 5.8 gigahertz frequency band. While I'm on the topic, I also want to show you this screenshot that I took from a flight down in Ocean City, Maryland. I was able to get out 2 miles over the water and could have gone further with the Mavic Air, but had to turn around due to the battery getting low. That's another big thing about the Mavic Mini. You'll be able to fly longer distances with this drone because you've got a longer flight time, which is pretty astonishing for how small it is. Now, as if I couldn't talk up the Mavic Air anymore, the feature set that this drone offers is so much more extensive than what we find on the Mavic Mini. What can we do on the Mavic Mini? We can shoot like 4 quick shots, right? That's pretty much about it. I took the time to try and think of every single feature that the Mavic Air has over the Mavic Mini, and this right here is the list that I came up with. There's a lot of really powerful things that the Mavic Air can do that the Mavic Mini just can't. Things like the extensive list of intelligent flight modes, the more powerful DJI Go 4 app that offers a lot more customization, and the big one, in my opinion, obstacle avoidance. There are sensors on the front, back, and bottom that help the operator avoid obstacles, which are here because we don't have any weight restriction. This isn't a drone that DJI is trying to keep under 250 grams. This also allows us to have things like the quick release props, internal storage, and even USB-C connectivity. Now, taking a step back here away from the aircraft and focusing on the remote, the design is fundamentally the same here between these two controllers, but the Mavic Airs offers more buttons like this switch to toggle on sport mode, a pause button for use during intelligent flight modes, a function button, and a custom button on the backside that can be assigned to a specific task within the app, and there's even a full-sized USB-A port on the bottom for an easier connection to larger devices like iPads. They both still have the removable sticks and both share the same design, but we can do so much more with the Mavic Air's remote. So let me make this easy for you Mavic Air owners. Despite having a longer flight time and despite potentially having a longer range, the Mavic Mini certainly is not an upgrade over the Mavic Air, but it does come really close to being able to what the Mavic Air can offer. And because of that, maybe the Mavic Mini is a great secondary drone. Maybe it's something you bring on vacation, specifically into another country that has strict drone laws and where you need to register yourself, or maybe you register the drone if it falls in between a certain weight class. So for me, if I go up to Canada, this drone is going to be perfect to bring with me and fly. Now, where things become a little bit more tricky is if you don't already own a drone yet, which one do you buy? Do you want to save the $520, the extra $520 it costs to buy the Mavic Air? And are you okay dealing with the Mavic Mini? Or do you see a feature that the Mavic Air has that justifies paying the extra money? Well, honestly, I can't answer that question for you. Hopefully I answered it throughout this video. Maybe I answered something that you had or some sort of question, and maybe you made the decision in your own mind. But regardless, the reason I've been saying that the Mavic Mini and its very powerful specs are so important at that price range is because it bumps on the heels of the Mavic Air, which then bumps on the heels of all the other drones in DJI's lineup. So with the Mavic Mini being so good, I could see a predecessor coming out for the Mavic Air very soon because this drone is too close to the Mavic Air in what it offers. And the same thing goes after a new Mavic Air comes out. It's then going to be too good to the point where why would you spend the extra money on like a Mavic 2 Pro? So we could see another drone after that. So look, this is all speculation. This is something I wanted to end this video on, but at the end of the day, the Mavic Mini is very good, and it does push on the heels of the Mavic Air, despite this drone, the Mavic Air, definitely being better. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, I'll talk to you later. Peace.